Live. Guess what we're doing? We are going live.
We're at 20.
2019, 18. There we go.
You know, if you count down the seconds, either you or myself, if we do that, it's going to get annoying. There's only one that I want to drop in, and that is a Simpsons reference as the countdown goes on. Here comes two. Anyway, if you know, you know.
Good Ubu, sit. Good dog.
That's sit Ubu,
sit. Sit Ubu, sit. Good Ubu, sit. Sit Ubu, sit.
You know, it made me sad to learn that Ubu had passed away long before we saw that intro on Family Ties.
Oh, man. Okay. There we go.
Shana, was it Shalala or Shanana? No, it's
Shalana.
Shalalala. Anyway, how are you? That's good. I'm in a better headspace than I was today.
Good. That's good. It's orange and blue today. We are presented by Champ Honda, and we need to be in a good headspace because it was interesting for Russell Wilson. We've got clips from Sean Payton. We got clips from Mike McGlinchey and Lloyd Cushenberry as well. We're going to get to all that, but Russell Wilson was throwing a lot of interceptions during this entire camp process, but today specifically, with a couple, red zone work was not good, but let's get into Russ and the interceptions and the concern level. Your answer is probably different from mine, and I think mine is going to upset people.
Okay. So who's going first? Me? You?
I will allow you to go first.
All right. I think, first of all, I'm not worried and panic-stricken, but I'm concerned.
Okay. Tell me the difference.
Worried and panic-stricken means that you think the sky is falling, that there's no hope for Russell Wilson, that he is going to be this year what he was last year, and that's going to ultimately doom the season. I don't think that they're at that point right now.
Okay.
Because the teaching does matter, and the quality of the teaching he's going to get from Sean Payton is better than what he had last year, and I think that's going to prove helpful. I think they will adjust ultimately to what he can do well at this point. But there's no denying those two interceptions today were bad.
Yes.
The one intended for Brandon Johnson. First of all, a throw into heavy traffic. Second of all, a complete overthrow. Just a bad throw.
Yes.
All around. And then you had the one that K1 Williams picked off in the red zone. Really kind of it was a rough red zone period for a lot of reasons. You had a ball that Cortland Sutton should have caught but didn't. And then a ball to Gary Jeudy that Jeudy had a chance to catch, but wasn't really very well placed by Russell Wilson.
Right.
And then you had the pick. Just troublesome in general. And the other thing also, look, and I think for all of us who were around last year, it's hard to get past the fact that we saw similar stuff last year and it didn't get straightened out.
Right.
So it's a little bit of kind of once bitten, twice shy.
Well, I would say that your response is very measured. I tend to agree with most of what you have to say about that, but I also tend to be on they're making omelets, they're breaking eggs. You got to throw picks. I don't care if Russell Wilson is throwing picks. Now, how is he throwing them? That's what I care about. The Brandon Johnson play.
That was a concern.
Was a terrible throw.
Honestly,
that's a concern. But the other day,
the Greg Dulcich interception.
Yeah, when he threw that and the Simmons one,
fine.
No. I mean, it was a bad decision. The Brandon Johnson pick today was just a bad throw.
That was the worst throw he's had of camp, I think.
Yes, very much so.
Yeah.
Very Jarrett Stidham-like, although Stidham has been better. But still, for me, every interception has a story, as you mentioned on this show. And the stories for me, outside of the Brandon Johnson pick, have been okay, I can see what he's trying to do. And what you said was the most accurate for what we need to have and center this discussion, because so many people are running away with Russ sucks and he can't do it and all these sorts of things. Sean Payton is figuring out what he can and what he can't do. And then he's going to craft an offense that features more of what he can do. So rather than just assume Russ can't do something, I'd rather see them try stuff. And this is where the Sean Payton audio comes in.
Yeah.
And then, okay, Russ, let's rework this. Let's do something different.
There's an interesting conundrum there, though, because if you learn as a coaching staff that Russell Wilson can't do things at the level that you want him to, and you adjust because you're trying to win right now, you're trying to get the most out of the 2023 Broncos as constructed. Does that mean that you pare things back and you get by, but you know you're doing that? And then in that case, is the decision for whether to have him on the roster for 2024 when the $37 million more becomes guaranteed. Does that illuminate your call? Like, if you pare it back and say, we're just going to get by here, but he can't take the steps he needs to take to run this offense long-term, does that mean that maybe you're just kind of duct tape and bailing, wiring it for the year, and then making the decision to move on? That I think is the larger question.
You may be getting clues about what they want to do right now, based on what Russell Wilson is doing or not doing at training camp. And what I told Stokely and Zach is what I'll tell you, and would love your reaction as always. One, Andrew Mason at Mace Denver.
Thank you.
There will be moments where Russell Wilson needs to be Russ. You're down by 6. You got to score a touchdown to win. There's less than 2 minutes to go in the fourth quarter. It's Russ time. Russ be Russ. Russ pull a rabbit out of your hat. We can't replicate those instances in practice.
Right.
Now, if we get to a game and we're a month into the season or 6 weeks in and we've had those moments and Russ has failed, guess where your answer is going. But part of the problem is we're trying to figure out what Russ can do while also going, there's moments where he can do something not many QBs can. He's done it in the past.
Yeah.
And we can't really set that up in practice.
And the other thing also that is worrisome is watching him sometimes, he's still holding it a little bit too long in the pocket.
He is. Is he not trusting it, the system or the design? And again, this would lead him to do the opposite because there seems to be a lack of trust in the offensive line. But for me, it seems to be lack of trust in his eyes and the design. He's a see-it-throw-it guy now. And in a Sean Payton offense, you know what? Guys are open. Throw it, Russ. Throw it on time.
What's what we talk about with ingrained behavior, right? So you're having to change that. That's a heck of an ask in the 12th year of an NFL career, a season in which he's going to have his 35th birthday.
Old dog, new tricks type of thing?
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough to remake yourself at that age in the NFL. I mean, so basically, if you're trying to do it at 35 in the NFL, it's like trying to remake yourself career-wise in your mid-50s, right?
Okay.
It's pretty hard.
Yeah.
Because you know what? There's not as much sand left in the hourglass as you'd like. So are the days of our lives.
I thought you were going to go with a baseball reference, like it's when you go from a starter to a closer or something like that.
Or more like it's the 7th inning. You're running out of outs here to get this thing done.
Yeah.
It's not the 2nd inning where you can say, oh, I know I've got at least a couple more at bats no matter what. You get to the 7th inning, depending on the place in the lineup, you might not see the plate again.
Okay. Sean Payton talked about what the plan was today, and this ties into our Russell Wilson conversation. And here's Coach on said plan.
We're in an installation pattern, right? So as we install, we continue to see, sometimes we're putting a play in and it doesn't really match. We may not run it if we were playing Denver's defense, but it's kind of in the installation schedule. And then, throughout this training camp and preseason, you begin to see some things that we're doing well. There's a few things that maybe you don't feel as comfortable about. So you're constantly building up that memory bank of what you're seeing and how we're executing it. It was our first day in the red zone. Obviously the trick there is you have to be good running the football. We went through the top 10 teams last year offensively and defensively in the red zone, and we talked to them about like all the specifics. It's a pretty important special situation in our game. Good red zone teams typically are in the playoffs. So I would say the emphasis was a little bit more pass driven, not run driven today in those 2 team periods.
Okay, there's Coach talking about the plan, and a lot said there.
The emphasis was pass driven, not run driven.
When in the red zone, you got to run.
Yeah. So obviously that affects kind of what you're seeing defensively, but at the same time, you could argue that one of Russ's 2 best plays was actually a run in the red zone. There, of course, his best play was in the red zone. Let's make that clear. There was a pass, I believe it was about an 18-yard pass to Cortland Sutton, left side. Couldn't have done it better from the line of scrimmage at the 24. And then his other good play in the red zone was when he took off and scrambled. And decisively scrambled, by the way. He quickly went through, didn't see what he wanted, and took off and had some open space.
I like that.
Yeah, that's okay. That's positive, right? And that'll work when you get to the regular season.
Yeah.
If he is decisive rather than mulling around the pocket, then he's going to run for some touchdowns. Look, we saw it in January against Kansas City, week 17. He takes off and runs for a touchdown, right? He still has that club in his bag. So that part should encourage you. It's not the sky is falling on Russell Wilson. There is some good stuff going on, but when you're seeing interceptions day after day, it's hard to look past that.
Yes.
Unfortunately, it's the top line thing, because ball security is job security, as Brock Osweiler has said.
That's true. One thing that you mentioned there that rings true through this entire thing, when he ran, he dropped back, he looked what he didn't like what he saw, and then he ran.
Yeah.
But he made a quick decision.
Yeah.
So even though I've cursed at him on 7-on-7, because that's a passing drill, but in a team drill, if you go high, low, run, I'm fine with that as long as the decision is on time. Sean Payton's offense is timing based, and I want to see Wilson. To me, the sins of holding on to the ball too long, those are far greater sins than, hey, he had a bad throw that was picked, or hey, he made a bad decision and it was picked.
Well, the thing is, holding on the ball too long is part and parcel, unfortunately, of Russell Wilson's career. Like, if there's a critique of him, it is holding on to the ball too long.
Yeah.
Now, if he's buying time and eluding pass rushers and giving his receivers chances to break off their routes and freelance, that's where you see some beyond the play structure magic happen. The concern last year was that when he did get to that point in a play, which was not often, because there were so many layers to the progressions that Nathaniel Hackett wanted. With Sean Payton, it's considerably simpler. It's considerably quicker to get beyond the play structure with Sean Payton. But when he did try to escape good chunks of last year, I think back to the Carolina game, for example, and he just wasn't as quick and wasn't able to get out in a way that he used to in Seattle. And that's where the physical condition is going to matter. And
very much so. Yep. That's why when we're watching Russell Wilson's physique, we're excited about that. Lurker Troy says, take the shells out of the omelet. Do you know the best way to get shells out of your eggs, as someone who eats eggs every day?
You mean before?
When you crack them and then, oh man, I got a piece of shell in there. Do you know the best way to get it out?
It's not by putting a fork in and trying to fish it out.
No, get a little water on your fingertip and the water will separate it from the egg yolk and boom, lifts right out.
I've tried that, but it hasn't worked as well for me. I heard that. I've heard that.
You've heard that, yeah. Old wives' tale, whatever.
Yeah, I'm very much on board with the couple of eggs and turkey bacon for breakfast. I'm there.
It's all good. Although it's training camp, so I'm eating granola bars for every meal.
Well,
let me finish.
You need that protein, right? you need that protein in the morning. I missed breakfast yesterday. Like,
don't do it.
Well, here's what happened. Like, I had to I was running behind. I had a little car issue, and I just I quickly went back to my place, made some eggs, but my burner didn't heat up fast enough, right? And so the clock is ticking, and finally I have to give up on the eggs, and then because they're not getting done fast enough. I believe that got me off on the wrong foot. Now, there were other things that came up as well in my day, but I should have known when I left without breakfast that it was going to be, as I said on the radio side, a crap day.
Okay. Well, what's my day going to be today? And then we'll get back to Broncos, I promise, because as I went to grab my Wheaties Ones Jordans,
nice,
which everyone says are beautiful because they're old school Broncos
colors. By the way, what do you treat your shoes with? Do you do anything?
Rejuvenator. Obviously, you see they're a little bit dirty, but that's okay. As I grabbed my shoe this morning, huge spider.
In or on the shoe?
Underneath, maybe on something. All of a sudden, he got on my hand, and it was like about the size of my palm. I mean, big enough to scare me. Like, oh God, not a wolf spider, but I was like, what does that mean for my day?
So far, so good, I think.
I suppose so. I'm not Russell Wilson throwing all those picks now.
Maybe Russell Wilson has a spider on his shoe in his locker.
Maybe
something.
It was interesting.
Look, I think we should keep it real here when we talk about this, and
very much so.
Reality is usually not as bad as it would seem from the extreme sky is falling crowd, but not as good as it would seem by the everything's fine. No,
Everything's
not fine. Okay. There's stuff to work on. And now we are a week into training camp. And we are 3 padded practice into training camp. This is where certain things are going to start to become evident, right? Mm-hmm. Positively and negatively. We're going to get into some of the positives here as we go on, but until you see it corrected, I mean, shoot, we know what shaky quarterbacking looks like around here in Broncos country in the last few years. Unfortunately, Russell Wilson last year did not even play at a level of Teddy Bridgewater the year before. Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, I believe Wilson's passer rating was lower than that of Joe Flacco in 2019 for the 8 games he played.
And there you have it.
Yeah.
Well, and you and I both know, as we have dozens of years of experience in watching training camp, you get to a certain point, and then all you're doing every day is rechecking boxes. Mm-hmm. You've already seen it. You already know. We're almost to that point. And because of that, with Russell Wilson, we also have to realize, and Dennis Miller said this years ago, you may never be more blank than you are right now. You may never be happier than you are right now. You may never be richer than you are right now. Whatever that blank is, this might just be Russell Wilson. And I think as painful it is for our affiliates on the Fan, because a lot of people are doomsaying this thing, and we refuse to do that because we're going to be measured with what we say. I think a lot of people are just like coming to the realization of this might just be who Russ is now.
And can you live with that long term? That's the question. Is what Russ is right now, if this is who he is that enough to win? Is that enough to build a competitive team? And is it enough to justify absorbing more money coming on in terms of guaranteed cash early in the next league year?
The answer to everything you ask, except for the last one, is yes. And then you ask the last one, it's like, no.
Yeah.
When it gets to that money, no.
Yeah. It's the sunk cost thing. And look, that's above all, this year is about finding out about Russell Wilson's future.
1,000%.
This is clear, and deciding whether you want to continue to go down that road or swallow the pill and say this was just a mistake and move on. I mean, put it this way. If it's not working out, I don't think you say, oh, we don't want to have that dead money, so let's just keep him here and see if he figures it out. No. I mean, there's a lot of smart things that have been written about falling victim of the sunk cost fallacy. Right.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And that's what would be the case here.
Well, and one thing that you and I both noted together watching practice is like, there's some throws from Russ that are young man throws. Mm-hmm. Like, what? Huh? That makes no sense why a veteran would be doing that.
Yeah.
And again, if you can win games with him, but are you going to pay all that money? The answer is no, because you could take a young quarterback and then you could live with those and be like, oh, he's going to learn. We've seen some throws from Russ this year that go like, he shouldn't be making that. Not as a 12-year veteran.
I mean, I think a good exercise here is to rewind to the Drew Lock years, right?
Okay.
And if you saw something that 2, 3, 4 years ago would have frustrated you with Drew Lock, it should probably, be double the consternation regarding Russell Wilson, because with Drew Lock, you had the excuse of youth, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, he'd do things that would drive you crazy. Honestly, when Russ airmailed Brandon Johnson, I did get a Drew Lock flashback a little bit.
Yeah.
And
because Lock would have bad feet and he'd sail passes and be like, oh, well.
Yeah. Like, whoops. So, yeah, if it frustrated you when a 2-3 year veteran who was still learning how to play the position at a pro level was doing that, then it should have even more of a reaction when you see that out there in practice when it's coming from a 12-year veteran like Russell Wilson. I mean, he airmailed it, and it was a bad decision to begin with, throwing into that much traffic.
Yeah. So we've seen a couple of plays like that honestly, have been picked off.
When he released the ball, I had a great angle on it up top, and when he released it, I thought to myself, oh, no, he didn't just do that.
Yeah.
He did.
And because the pass was off, it was a pick, easy pick. Justin Simmons out there snaring passes now.
Yeah, that's another thing. Yet another Justin Simmons interception. I actually said this to our friend Troy Rank, who contributes here, of course, at Denver Sports, as well as working over at Channel 7. I said the Justin Simmons dominance of Russell Wilson so far is bringing to mind how Lorenzo Doss, remember him in 2016?
Rolling in the benzo.
Kept picking off Mark Sanchez. Lorenzo Doss broke the Sanchez.
Right.
In the end.
And honestly, they should have just kept Mark. Anyway.
Rather than start Trevor?
Yeah. Then bring along the kid, realize he's no good, get rid of him. Anyway, that's a different what if.
But I understand why they made that call, because unfortunately it was kind of a headspace thing for Mark Sanchez.
Yeah.
And it was physically it was all fine, but it was clear that there was something on the mental side that he had to work through, and he had lost the confidence of the team.
Yep.
And that's why they just moved on. I mean, personally, I would have just kept him around at least as a backup so you didn't have to throw Paxton Lynch in there against Tampa Bay when he did well because they hadn't prepared for him.
Right.
And then against Atlanta the following week when he didn't do well because the Falcons had some film. And then they rushed Trevor Siemian back onto the field 4 days later on a Thursday night because...
Disaster. You could have easily started Mark Sanchez. And I've always said about that Falcons game...
Yeah, Trevor was like 50% health-wise. He had no business playing that game.
When they were in the shotgun, Paxton was 18 or 21.
In the Falcon game?
Mm-hmm. In the Atlanta game. So, yes, he was terrible in Atlanta, and they also couldn't stop, what was it, Norwood as a receiver out of the backfield?
It was both the running
backs. Both of them, Freeman and Norwood, I believe.
It was.
So, yes, Paxton was terrible against Atlanta, but he was in the shotgun when he was 18 or 21.
It was the day, that was a...
So, Gary, with the kick drum, like, you didn't want to run those 8 plays. Anyway, we're getting off track.
No, but it's funny, like, you think, like, over the last several years, what are, like, if you were to go through the post-Super Bowl 50 Broncos and say, okay, there are 5 key dates in how this thing...
That Atlanta game is one of them.
That Atlanta game is one of them because
huge date.
That defense that had been so dominant, Kyle Shanahan found the weak link.
And that was an Atlanta team that went to the Super Bowl.
Linebackers in coverage.
So we're saying, the Broncos sucked against Atlanta and Paxton sucked against Atlanta, the team that went to the Super Bowl. I digress.
The Broncos have never been the same since that day. Think about it. Because they were 4-0. Getting set to play the Falcons. So you're 12-4 the previous year. You won the Super Bowl. You're 4-0. At that point, they are 19-4 in the Kubiak era. I mean, they're rolling. And then Kyle Shanahan came in with a great game plan as offensive coordinator, and that was it. That day.
Well, let's make a correlation. That was
the start of all this.
To not doing what your quarterback needs you to do. Like Sean Payton will do what Gary Kubiak refused to do. And I know Paxton and Russell are completely different, but
you're play to what the quarterback can do.
Hey, Russ can't do everything anymore. He's not Drew Brees, everybody. He's Jameis Winston in 2021. That's what this offense is. I've said it once. I've said it 1,000 times. You want to see this offense? Watch the Saints in Sean Payton's last year. That's what it's going to be.
And that was going pretty well.
Yeah.
Until Jameis got hurt.
Yeah. So with Russ, can it go pretty well? Yes. But long term, do you want to pay for that? No.
Didn't go as well with Trevor Siemian. A lot of Siemian references today.
Trevor. He's always on our minds. Let's play this.
How about the fact that if Joe Burrow doesn't get all the way back, Trevor Siemian's in line to start again.
The
NFL does not know how to quit Trevor Siemian.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now, guess who's taking first team reps in Cincinnati?
Trev.
That's right.
T-Money Sizzle. By the way,
Skittles jacket on.
That's my favorite thing on Pro Football Reference is how they list the nicknames. And Trevor Siemian's nickname listed on there is T-Money Sizzle.
I like it.
I mean, I never heard him called that. Not all of them. I heard T-Money. I don't know if I ever heard T.
I heard T-Sizzle, but never T-Money Sizzle.
But T-Money Sizzle all together. That is a great nickname, and someone who appears to be the least likely person to have that sort of nickname.
Someone who
it's
drives
ironic. That's what's fun about
an H3. Anyway,
he does.
His teammates always clown him about that. It's like, at least get an original H1.
People like still drive those things.
Trevor still does.
Still
to this day.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
All right. I got a chance to talk to Lloyd Cushenberry after practice. He's got some comments on Russ, and we'll tie a bow on this. We spent about 20 minutes. We've spent 4 minutes talking about Trevor Siemian, but 20 minutes talking about Russell Wilson. Let's hear Lloyd Cushenberry on Russell Wilson.
Anyway, Lloyd Cushenberry, Broncos starting center here. Lloyd, to wrap things up, Russell Wilson. Everyone wants to know, how's he going to look for Sean Payton? You snap the ball with the guy every day. What are your impressions of Russell Wilson so far?
He's going to shake back. All of us will. A lot of talk has been out there, but So we just putting our head down for it. I think how Russ does is all how we do it. So it's on us to keep him clean, and that's our plan, that's our goal. And we're gonna show the world who he is and who he's been. He hasn't lost it, so looking forward for him to prove a lot of people.
Big year for the Broncos.
Yeah. And that final bit is what I wanted y'all to hear over the crowd cheering for autographs. I'm excited to see him prove everybody wrong. That's from Lloyd Cushenberry.
If this team is going to be anything, it's going to start with Russell Wilson doing just that, showing that the narrative about him last year was false, and showing that he's going to have a comeback. Look, America loves two things. America loves tearing somebody down, and America loves comeback.
They love the comeback story.
Yes, love a comeback story. A redemption arc is undefeated, right? In terms of how it's perceived. So
1000%. Were you, and listen, we're going to give Mike McGlinchey a bunch of grace as well. And it's not a mullet, Paul. It's the whole thing growing out. Anyway.
But you're hiding it with the
ball cap. Yeah.
Man, how much time does it take to get that thing ready in the morning?
None. I just put a hat on.
But if my hair gets a little longer than this, it's just all over the place. It's a mess. It looks terrible.
Yeah.
At least I think it looks terrible.
We're going to give Mike McGlinchey grace, but who's had a worse training camp, Russell Wilson or Mike McGlinchey?
Well,
false starts,
McGlinchey
holdings.
has the smaller sample size.
True.
Obviously, McGlinchey is dealing with the death of somebody very close to him.
And that's why we give him grace.
Yes. And today was rough for him. Nick Bonito schooled
again
today.
Nick Bonito, everybody. And we're excited about Bonito. He's done a really good job out there as a rusher.
Here's the thing. It's both Nick Bonito doing better than expected and ascending, and Mike McGlinchey struggling. Like, it's, as Zach By would say on our air, two things can be true at the same time. Okay. It's not one or the other.
So when McGlinchey talks about the edge, we got to play this, and trust me, the audio is better than it was for Lloyd. But man,
ironic. I didn't have my little device today to plug in. I left it back in the media room.
Your dongle again?
I left my dongle in the media room.
Oh man,
always
watch out.
Always keep your dongle on you.
100%. But these McGlinchey comments will make your head spin. Here's Mike.
I think it could be special. I think it has been. I've played Frank quite a bit in my career. I played him in the Super Bowl. I played him. He was in Seattle when I was first a rookie in the NFL. He's a very, very, active, hard-nosed player. He plays all three downs incredibly well. Randy, the same thing. Those guys, and then I played Barron too when he gets healthy. And the rest of the guys on that group are solid as well. I think that's just the edge guys too. And certainly you got Zach and DJ and all those guys in the middle that when the middle of the pocket's getting pressure, it makes it a lot easier for the edge guys, because I think it's going to be a unit that can rush, as a unit. And I think that's how you have the most success in the NFL, is when you got all four guys creating pressure and rushing on the same plan, and believing the principles. And our two coaches, Marcus and Mike Will Horton, have done a great job with those guys. So I expect a great deal of pass rush from our team. They've certainly made it challenging in the first week with pads. The energy's gone up, the speed's gone up, and so we're doing a great job there.
Mike McGlinchey on these guys up front, also saying they could be elite. That's not a word I would use with the Broncos pass rush.
Well, he had praise for Frank Clark, and obviously there's the experience there. He noted, he went against Frank Clark in the Super Bowl back in February of 2020. Frank Clark was still playing for the Seahawks when McGlinchey got to the 49ers. So certainly there's that, but it wasn't Frank Clark who was taking the tackles to school today. It was Nick Bonito. It was Jonathan Cooper getting in the backfield again
with another strong day.
Jonathan Cooper keeps stacking really good days, and you can kind of see on how they use him. The algorithm is very much Cooper's the next man up behind Randy Gregory and Frank Clark. He's more complete at this point than Nick Bonito. Bonito actually made a nice play on the run, but again, it was pursuit. Like, when it comes at him directly, he struggles. There's got to be pursuit involved. Usually backside pursuit, not in this case, but usually backside pursuit for him to be a plus player against the run. And that is a skill set too. Von Miller is very good at backside run pursuit.
And a lot of pass rushers, especially the one-dimensional guys, once the run goes away from them, they just stop.
Yeah.
But so I love the fact that Benito
Yeah.
keeps going and pursues down the line of scrimmage, usually backside, not on today's case. But yeah, Nick Benito putting together great days. But Jonathan Cooper, can this Denver group of edges be elite like Mike McGlinchey seems to think so? Because elite to me is Von Miller, DeMarcus Ware.
You know what? Here's the thing. We know what elite looks like around here.
Oh, yeah.
Elite looks like, you mentioned Von Miller and DeMarcus Ware with Shane Ray and Shaq Barrett coming off the
as your
bench.
backups.
Okay.
A first rounder and another guy that led the league in sacks.
Right. That's elite. This is not on that level. They can be good. They can be above average. You know, I think if you're talking about a collective group of edges, top 10, top 12, but a lot has to go right. And all that going right starts with health. It starts with Randy Gregory, who did get a rest day today. It starts with Randy Gregory being healthy. It starts with Frank Clark being effective in the regular season. Playoff Frank Clark is great. Regular season Frank Clark the last couple of years hasn't been quite as productive. You need January Frank Clark in October if this season is to be anything special for the Broncos.
Yeah, and you need him October all the way through.
Yeah.
Like, not just for a period, not in December. If he only shows up in December, it doesn't matter. Like, you need him at the beginning and as much through as you possibly can. And I don't know if that's a good plan. And you also would need Baron Browning to come back and be great, but he's not going to be what Cooper's doing.
I speak of October for Frank Clark because October is the month when you see the Jets and Aaron Rodgers in 2 games with the Chiefs. I feel like October, Bears,
tells the
Jets,
tale.
Chiefs, Packers. Packers, one of those great unknown teams because they will go as far as Jordan Love takes them, and who knows what Jordan Love's going to be. Because it's still a pretty talented roster beyond the quarterback position.
Yeah. 2 backs they can lean on.
And that's why the Packers are so interesting. And that game there, second to last weekend of October is hard to gauge. But yeah, you go Bears, Justin Fields in Chicago. I think it's going to be a tough one. And then Jets, Chiefs, Packers, Chiefs. Those 5 games in October, I feel like that's when we're going to know whether all this can work or not.
So instead of spicy, it might be spooky season.
Ooh, that's
we talked about spooky season on this show. Hey, it's spooky season after July 4th.
That's true. There's Halloween stuff for sale. There's Halloween candy for sale right now. It's August the 2nd. Stop it. Get some help. I'm going to,
do the Jordan
thing. Stop it. Get some help. Do not start selling Halloween candy until at least mid-September. I mean, don't we start seeing pumpkin spice stuff later this month?
I think so, yes.
Oh, bloody hell. Come on.
Come on, everybody.
Come on, people. Don't wish the time away. Enjoy the moment. We need to find, it's okay for August to just be nothing.
Yeah, that's fine.
It's okay for a month to just have nothing and not be anticipating another holiday. Instead, we're always looking ahead, always looking away to the future. Never your mind on where you are and what you're doing. Paraphrase Yoda. Sorry.
You got to add the grunt in there too. Where he was. What he was doing.
Yeah, that was terrible, Yoda. I got to take it a little deeper there.
Okay.
Never, all his life, he looked away to the future. Adventure.
Excitement. A Jedi craves not these things.
We are such
We're nerds. Okay, the McGlinchey thing, he also brought up the middle. This is your hidden pressures come from a couple of spots, 3 spots technically.
Yes.
K'Wan Williams on a corner blitz, that's going to happen. Drew Sanders working as a blitz from the inside, that's going to happen. And then DJ Jones. So when McGlinchey says elite, and he's talking about the edge, but he also mentions how the middle can help out those edge guys. Yeah, you got a DJ Jones in there healthy, wrecking havoc. That is going to help those edge guys.
DJ Jones and Zach Allen together on the inside.
Beautiful.
That's DJ Jones is going to get a lot more work this year than I think he's ever had. Because I think we're going to see plenty of DJ Jones and Zach Allen out there in sub packages too. When you go 2 down linemen and you go nickel on the back end. I think DJ Jones has a chance to be a plus player in the pass rush. The only thing is his body type says you got to watch the snaps. because you got to watch the wear and tear on those joints when he's a big guy like that.
Did we get an injury update on Tyler Lancaster? I don't think we did.
We did not get
Yeah, because you got to, because that's where a guy like Lancaster or Purcell would come through, because you have DJ in on some passing, and then you rotate in on an obvious run situation.
You got
the run stuff.
And then you got Jonathan Harris, and you got
Right.
Matt Henningsen, who are going to probably rotate in as well.
Right.
But when the chips are down and you need something big, I think you'll see a lot of the Allen DJ Jones combination.
I like that
as the two downs up front.
I like that.
Yeah.
Orange and Blue today. We're presented by Sean Ponda. Riley Moss. We have Sean Payton talking about the rookie corner who's going to need some time.
Real quick update on Riley. He had a core muscle repair done by Myers in Philadelphia. It's going to set him back probably about 4 weeks. Kind of a sports hernia. It's not too uncommon. He had that yesterday, went well. He'll be back here this week. And but I think all along we were looking at more of a veteran corner. We had talked about that coming out of our meetings, last weekend. So we signed Fabian yesterday, and we're right at 90.
There you go. Fabian Moreau in. Not Foster, no relation, but Fabian Moreau in.
Another experienced guy. I think that's the thing. You wanted somebody who had some experience. You have all these young guys that are fighting for playing time. Have someone in there that's been a starter. Again, we talked about Fabian Moreau yesterday. He struggled the last couple of years, but this is somebody who still kind of knows what he's doing. He's coachable. He's good in the locker room. So that's okay. You think for Riley Moss, though, he's about to miss probably the next 4 weeks.
Now you think it's short-term IR? Because they can't pup him because he wasn't on pup at the beginning of camp.
If he comes back on the timeline given, that means he should be ready for week 1.
Okay.
But the thing is, he's losing time. He's losing reps. Unfortunately for Riley Moss, now he's in a scenario where unless you've got a bunch of injuries at cornerback, it's unlikely that this rookie season is going to be a highly productive one on the defensive end for Riley Moss. He'll probably play a lot on special teams once he gets back out there.
True.
He's factoring in those packages. But now it looks like this year might be a bit of a wash for Riley Moss.
I don't want to say,
he's losing the snaps he needed.
Completely gone.
No.
But
even before this, he was behind Damari Mathis, obviously. He was behind Jaquan McMillan. And then, of course, you've got the guys who are your slot corners. The slot's going to be K'Wan Williams, and then backing him up, either Isang Bassi or Fayon Hicks. Riley Moss, in terms of where he was projecting for snaps, was behind all those guys right now. So this is going to be tough for him to overcome, at least in his rookie year. And now you throw Fabian Moreau in, who has a good chance to make the roster. And if that's the case, then not a redshirt year, but definitely just a learning year for Riley Moss, unless you have like 3 or 4 injuries.
Maybe he comes through at the end of the year like we saw from Jaquan, where last game and he's got a pick or something like that. So we're hopeful for that, but it's definitely the timing of this injury and the nature of this injury, not what you want for a young player.
Yeah. I mean, occasionally you can overcome missing all that time. It happened for Greg Dulcich, but part of the reason it happened for Greg Dulcich is the Broncos didn't have really great options at tight end. Whereas at cornerback, you see Jaquan McMillan making plays and
pretty
also
stacked.
Factor on special teams. You see McMillan being aggressive. We mentioned Tremon Smith as well is going to factor on special teams.
Oh, for sure. 1,000%.
It's actually a position where the Broncos feel pretty confident in their depths right now. So
did you see Taylor Grimes get open on Isang Bassi?
Yes.
He got open a few times today. And by the way, he's catching passes on one-on-ones from Russell Wilson. So
what a move.
Taylor Grimes is moving up. He's moving up.
He's making plays.
I'm excited. And Jaleel McLaughlin every day. You don't even need to look at your roster anymore. If it's a 3 and it's okay, it's not Javonte because Javante's huge and Samaji's a big guy too.
He just moves differently than the other running backs.
It's so natural.
Fluid. He's quick and fluid. He just seems to be in another gear compared to probably all the running backs with the exception of Javonte Williams. Yeah. I can't wait to see him in the actual preseason game because if he has a big play or two in those preseason games, that's gonna That's going to make things really tough in terms of roster decision making, because
Yes.
I think McLaughlin is capable of making a play that puts the Broncos in a position to where they cannot expose him to waivers.
Not at all.
And they would have to keep him on the 53.
And he's a field flipper. I mean, and now also speaking of moving up, Jaleel McLaughlin is getting some passes from Russell Wilson. He's getting some reps with Russell Wilson.
Yes.
These are all things to note, as you mentioned, with training camp things go on. To wrap it up, Mace, then we'll tie a bow on today's show. Dave in the chat room has a really good question, and it reminds me of John Elway.
Oh,
Now, he said, I heard from an analyst that Drew Brees would literally sprint back on his pass drop. Why doesn't Payton have Russ do the same? That's from Dave in the chat room. Do you remember John? And I think John Elway is the best quarterback of all time. Obviously, Tom Brady with the rings, whatever. But when John played, one of the things that made him special, other than the rocket arm and the scrambling ability, he would get back so fast. That first step was huge. And then Elway would just like sprint back, and it'd give him just those microseconds more to read the field and then use that rocket arm. Yes, Drew Brees was doing that as well. We're not seeing that from Russell Wilson.
You wonder then if maybe the call to kind of get things quicker and moving better is to get Russ in the shotgun more. Maybe more than Sean Payton would like. If you're going to have that quick.
That's a problem for a run-heavy team, though, because when you're in the shotgun, you give away. If your back's on the left, the run play is going to the right. If the back's on the right.
I mean, you can run.
Pistol?
You can
compromise with pistol?
You can do some pistol stuff, yes. I mean,
I wouldn't mind it.
You can also do the split back things as well. But yeah, I think that's something you may have to think about here if he's not getting back to the spot as quickly as you like. Because, Drew Brees, I mean, it was like, quick drop, gone. I mean, you couldn't react to that. Whereas Russell Wilson takes a little bit more time to get set. This is part of the ebb and flow of feeling out what the quarterback can do and what's going to fit. And Sean Payton's not here to mess around and put a square peg into a round hole. I think they'll adjust. But like you said, to go back to your original analogy, you're going to break some eggs along the way. I wasted a couple of eggs yesterday. It's okay.
Oh, that's okay.
It happens. That's life.
Orange and blue today, presented by Sean Pond. Anything else, brother?
I got to tip the cap to the special teams. They were working on a drill today.
Lots of special teams work
Yes,
today.
but they were working on a drill on the punt in terms of downing punts. And there was varying degrees of success. Jaquan McMillan did down it once, but then couldn't quite down another time. Lil Jordan Humphrey, who, if he makes this team, it's going to be on special teams. We've talked to you about Lil Jordan Humphrey in that regard earlier in the last few weeks. He got down there, ball bounced. He got off his feet, knocked it back in, kept it from going into the end zone. It was down to about the 2-yard line. Do you have the Keanu Reeves gif?
Always.
Give me that.
Always. Everyone.
Give me Keanu.
Always
that
ready.
is Keanu, right? Yes. That was my reaction to seeing Lil Jordan Humphrey knock the ball back in the field of play and prevent a touchback.
The Keanu kiss.
Yes. Sensational. Things in football that give me a thrill up my leg are great special teams plays. Like that.
I like it as well.
I'm a special teams evangelist.
You are. That's why I go to you for special teams talk. Mike asked about Mims. Mims is out there. He's not doing much yet.
He's doing mostly punt returns. And actually, to kind of have one more special teams bit, a lot of punt work today. And those returns were basically Mims and Montreal Washington.
Yep. And Montreal had a good day as a receiver today. That's 2 days in a row. Speaking of stacking days. As a receiver.
He's stacking days and he's stacking big plays.
As a receiver.
Yes.
Because as a returner, they got returners, baby. Like if it's Marvin Mims as your returner or Taylor Grimes as your returner or Tremont Smith as your returner, they've got returners. It's what Montreal does as a receiver that can make him go, you know what? Let's keep him.
Yeah. It was a good day for Montreal. By the way, autocorrect always corrects Montreal to Montreal.
Autocorrect, I'm tired of your shirt. Anyway.
Yeah. But yeah, Very interesting to see how the punt return picture appears to have consolidated itself here a week into camp. Again, we're starting to see some storylines develop here. And look, we've already seen a guy get first team reps and get cut in training camp. That was Christian DeLauro working on the first team. And then a few days later, ziggied.
Done and done.
Yeah.
All right.
It's a cruel business, this football thing.
It's a cold world, y'all.
Yeah.
All right. He's Andrew Mason. Follow him on X. They even took retweet away. Did you see
I know
that?
it's repost.
Repost.
No, it's Twitter. It's retweeting.
It'll always be Twitter.
Someone responded to me on Twitter today. See, I'm sorry, I can't call it X. Okay. Someone responded to me on there today and said, maybe this is going to be like when IHOP rebranded ever so briefly, just as a joke, and they became IHOB because they wanted to promote their burgers. So they were the International House of Burgers rather than the International House
Is
of
this like
Pancakes.
new Coke of social media apps?
Maybe. Did I see correctly? They were putting up the X sign in San Francisco and they took it down
I
already.
believe so, yes.
Man,
Yeah.
that would be hilarious. I honestly, I may have had a little tear in my eye when I looked down and saw that my app had updated. I didn't see the little Twitter bird. I saw X. That's another thing. The logo is terrible. I can't think of one change Elon Musk has made to that app that I have agreed with. Not one. He's batting 0-0-0 in my book. Okay. Anyway, I'm not really a fan of Elon.
We'll have some more comment. We got to do another show about that. You and I could do a political show. We could.
That'd be interesting.
Yeah, it would be very interesting because we'd tell the truth. How many people like that? You mentioned Fox the other day with fake news or whatever. I was like, yeah, that's any corporate media. Like, let's go to YouTube, baby.
Yeah, I was actually saw something in I saw something that crossed my timeline today that there was a reporter for a small newspaper in North Carolina, and the newspaper got bought out by a company that runs a statewide paper there in North Carolina, the North State Journal. And maybe not the wisest decision on this reporter's part to go out and bash management for running an editorial written by someone from Moms for Liberty. But the reporter did that, and then the new ownership came in, and the guy got ziggied. I mean, that's kind of what you expect. But again, it's when you get corporations involved, right? Yeah. Anyhow.
Yeah. Well, we got a lot to say.
This is why we're saying it at the end.
Yes.
Rather
If
than
you
the
stuck
beginning.
around, one, we appreciate you. And two, we love you all.
Yeah.
Like, we love everybody out there.
By the way, taste the rainbow, baby.
There you go.
Then
And it's green. Why is it green?
that's why I liked it. Like, there's green in the rainbow of the classic Nuggets color, right?
Yes.
But you didn't. I found it was at a game like 4 years ago.
Was it St. Patty's Day?
No, I got it at a play. I got it. I saw it in the store when I was there for one of the games in 2019 when they were playing the Trailblazers.
Okay.
And I'm like, oh, I've never seen a green Nugget shirt. That's different. I like to be different. Think differently. Yeah, we love you too.
We love you
If
too.
you're still watching this after all this time, yeah, we love you. We appreciate you.
Yeah.
And
Couldn't do it without you.
Yep. Thanks for joining us, as always, here on
Be
Orange
safe.
and Blue today.
Be kind. Know that you are appreciated. Stay tuned. And would you please stay frosty?